Deepika here. Okay, now before I move forward, I have one announcement. There is a car in the car park. It is actually the number is PSN 337. It's a white Lancer, and whoever car is, can you please move your car? Otherwise, it will be towed away.
Okay, I'll go now. Headlights on.
Headlight. Okay, the car has headlights on. Okay, so it will not be towed away.
Depending if you leave them on.
I already put a note on the wiper.
Alright guys, so first of all, welcome everyone, and especially the first timer and the candidate. Special congratulations to you guys, because you have earned the spot tonight in the entrepreneurship workshop, right? Now, before I move forward and invite our guest speaker, just to share a few ground rules, guys. I'm sure that we all have this smart device called mobile phone. Am I right? Now, can you please put it on silent or aeroplane mode so that it will not interrupt the flow of the presentation, right? And the washrooms are my right and your left, but I highly recommend not to use them while the presentation is going on. And the water station is at your back, all right? Now, let's get ready, guys, because the guest speaker is coming. They are going to lift you up, so buckle up, right? So just a little bit of introduction about them. Anoop and Aarthi moved to Australia 16 years ago as students. They have since then established successful corporate careers. Anoop has a master in telecommunications engineering and is a program manager at a major telco, while Aarthi has a PhD in mathematics and is a researcher at a top university in Melbourne. Over the years, they have also built multiple thriving small businesses in diverse industries, including property, hospitality, and finance. A few years ago, they earned mentorship from entrepreneurs who retired in their late 20s, building debt-free cash flow positive assets. This mentorship changed the way they defined success. They are applying business principles they have learned from the mentors to build global assets, to buy back their time, retire young, and spend time with their two young, beautiful daughters. They believe in paying it forward and spending a lot of their time for coaching, mentoring, and empowering many lives, from students to senior corporate executives, to create a similar result and even more better result, So without any further ado, help me welcome Anoop and Dr. Aarthi on the stage.
Great. Good evening, everybody. How are we all doing?
Great.
Thank you, Tamalika, for a lovely and humble introduction. We feel privileged to be here. I guess we're here not to teach anything. We're here to share a bit of our journey, our life, some principles we have used to where we are today. And I guess I see a lot of serious faces here, so I'd like to start with a story. Is that okay? Okay, cool. So, there's a story of an elderly woman who was living her life very happily, and she went for a usual checkup to the doctor. And she walked into the doctors and said, "Hey doctor, everything looks fine to me. Hey, I want to tell you a secret." So the doctor says, "I want years, tell me." She goes, "Well, see, I have a small problem, if I can say so, and that is that I break wind continuously and silently." Do you understand what break wind is? Breaking wind, passing gas. I can't use any other words. So she said, I continuously break wind and silently. And here's a kicker. And there's absolutely no smell, foul smell at all. And I said, doctor goes, "Oh, that's an interesting thing." So doc says, looks at literally 1 minute, checks her up and says, "Yeah, here's a prescription. There's side effects to this prescription. Right, you take it and you'll be fine." So she takes it for a week and comes back, running back to the doctor. Says, "Doctor, I don't know what you gave me, but the side effects are really bad." So what happened? "You see, my breaking wind is still silent, but it now stinks. So doctor goes, okay, now that we have cleared up your sinuses, let's work on your hearing. So there's a moral to this story. And the moral is, we all think that we know it all and everything is hunky-dory with us. But when we seek perspective from somebody else, blind spots get uncovered. We hope in the next 45 minutes you'll probably get some blind spots uncovered, not in this way, but a few things that you can probably take and implement in your life. Having said that, we are Anoop and Aarthi, and I'll let my lovely wife kick off with who we are, and then probably I'll come back and discuss a few concepts. Here's Aarthi.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Great. So, Anoop and I are very excited to share with you. And today I just want to start by talking about a very important three-letter word. It's a word called joy. How many of us have experienced joy in our lives so far?
Yes.
Everyone, right? In fact, all our life, from the time that we were born to our earliest memory of childhood till where we are today, if you look back and you trace your life, the most important things that come to your mind would be the moments where you have experienced pure joy. And as human beings, we all strive to do that. Every day when we wake up, we do what we need to do, put on our clothes, go to work, come back. The endeavor or the purpose behind all of that, somewhere deep down, is to find joy. There is something that's driving us in the hope that there will be joy on the other end. There will be happiness on the other end. There will be fulfillment on the other end. Now, I want you to do an exercise with me before we start my story. If you have a note-taking device or a phone, I'd encourage you to take it out and take a minute to reflect on 3 experiences of joy that you have had in the last month. I'll give you 30 seconds. Write it down. Done? Fantastic. All right. Who would like to share? Just shout out. Give me one of your experiences of joy. Yes, sir.
I went to Mount Macedon with my friends.
Yeah.
It was a hike.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And
Fantastic.
started my music class after so long time.
Fantastic.
And finished a recently book, so I was so happy. It was 400 pages.
Fantastic. Excellent. Great. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else would like to share? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
By now that I've passed all my subjects at uni. So
Congratulations. That's a big one. That's one of them? Fantastic. Excellent. Anyone else? One last share. Yeah?
My kid's birthday.
You celebrated your kid's birthday. How old is your kid? 1 year. That's amazing. Congratulations. Excellent. So do you see a pattern in the things that give us joy? Usually they're things that we have worked, strived hard for, and we've been victorious at the other end. That's one area that gives us joy. Another may be you lose yourself in doing something. Maybe it doesn't have much meaning, but you just lose yourself in doing something that gives you that happiness. Maybe you go for a long, uninterrupted solo walk by the beach. Maybe you lose yourself in a wonderful book or a wonderful movie. Or maybe you've thrown yourself selflessly to some cause and that's given you joy. Whatever joy is for you, it's very important for us to capture that feeling. And I just want you to imagine if every day of your life, you were able to experience that kind of joy. What kind of life would you be living? When you look back on your life after you finished your journey on earth, would you feel that you lived a purposeful, meaningful, rich life, where it was just filled with memories of joy and happiness. And I think all of us would love to have that kind of life. But not all of us have a pathway to accomplish that. Not all of us have an environment that supports that. And that's one of the key things I want to talk about. See, just like you had 3 amazing things happen, I'm sure more than 3 amazing, joyful moments happened in your life, so did Anoop and I. And those moments are the things that keep us going when life gets hard, when life gets tough. When Anoop and I came to Australia 16 years ago, that's what kept us going as well. The moments of joy that we were looking forward to is what kept us going when times were hard as a student. So like Tamalika shared, we came here as students, both came to Australia from India, came doing our, both of us were doing our master's degree. And that's where we actually happened to meet. We didn't know each other before, so I keep saying I spent $20,000 to find a spouse. It was a good investment of my $20,000. But you know, life really got intentional and serious when we decided to get married. Because at that point, we started asking ourselves, what kind of future are we creating for our family? And both of us were in positions that we had worked very hard to get into. So I was finishing up my PhD, and Anoop had already started his journey in corporate Australia with his first graduate job. And life was looking good from the outside, because that's exactly what we've been coached to do, right? Go to school, get good grades, get into a good career path, and follow that path till the end of the road, till the age of 65, where you retire in a very good position. Hopefully you've set aside enough money that will serve you well. Hopefully you've planned your superannuation that will serve you well, so that when you retire and when the income stops, you can still maintain your lifestyle. That's what we've been coached. How many of you have been coached like that? That's what we all were coached. But when Anoop went through the rigor of corporate life, he realized when he looked at the people who were ahead of him in the corporate ladder, the people who were where he wanted to be 30, 40 years from now, he didn't see that story. He didn't see people who were satisfied, happy, had their financial situation sorted. He saw a lot of people who were unhappy. He saw a lot of broken marriages. He saw people who spent more time with him in the office than with their family. And he didn't want to be there. So he told me, you know, within 6 months of getting married, he said, Aarthi, I can't do this. I can't work in a job all my life. I need to retire at the age of 40. So we need to do a business. And me, I grew up in a very different mindset. I grew up in an academic background. So my father also works at a university, still works at a university. That was not a clue to me, but in those days I thought that was the best way to live life. So I thought I'm on the path to a career in academia. And academia is a very secure job. This is what I heard anyway. I heard that once you get a job in a university, the only way you can lose that job is if you retire or if you die. So it was pretty secure when compared to the other kinds of jobs out there. So I told Anoop, you know what, you want to pursue this business thing, you can do it. I'm very happy where I am. You have my full emotional support, but don't ask me to do anything. So he tried a lot to do something outside his career, to establish something. He had several ideas. Every Friday he would hang out with his friends and come up with amazing business ideas, but on Monday it would be back to the desk because there would be no follow through. And more importantly, it was almost like I was the flat tire in his vehicle. You know, if you have an amazing vehicle like a Ferrari, but it has flat tires, no matter how amazing the vehicle it is, it won't go far. And I was that flat tire in his vehicle to accomplish the dream. It was not long after that, sometimes they say when the pain of the same is greater than the pain of change, a human being takes action. So something happened at my workplace. It was not yet my workplace, so I was finishing my PhD there. But usually this doesn't happen in academia, but the university was actually not doing well. And in order to balance the books, a lot of staff had to be made redundant. And this sent shockwaves down the university circles. And it sent shockwaves down my spine as well, because I thought, oh my God, here I am working so hard to try to get into a line of work which I thought was secure, and it's not secure either. I saw people who have dedicated 25, 30 years of their life to the university being told that they didn't have a future there. And 50-year-old men and women had to make their resume again and compete with 30-year-olds to get a job because they had expected to work till 65. They had mortgages, they had debt, they had to look after their children's future. They had all these things that they had banked on having an income coming for the next 15 years, which is not going to be there anymore. And when I saw that, I realized that I never wanted to be in that position. And it's good that it happened to me before I entered the workforce. Now, sometimes things like this happen and we make the change. Sometimes things like this happen and then we close our eyes and pretend as if the problem is not there. This time, I actually opened my eyes. I went back and told my husband, you know what, this is what's happened at the university, and I'm with you 100%. I'm going to help you and support you in building something so that we have a strong financial future. Thus began our journey into trying to build businesses. Now, we all wanted, both of us, wanted to create something, however, we missed one very key thing, and that is perspective. We missed the guidance from somebody who could help us be successful. And often when we do not have that one voice, that one perspective, we seek several perspectives. So every Friday night when we went partying with our friends or visiting our family friends, we told them, we want to do something to get ahead, what should we do? And we had several different ideas thrown at us. And one of them was, oh, you should buy property, that's the way to get ahead. How many of you have heard that? Like a young couple, first thing you do, buy a property, get your foot in the door. How many of you have been told that? And so we were told that too, and that's what we did. We bought our first property, and then we bought our second one, and then we established a company that invested in property. Now, the key thing here was not that we established a company, and over a period of time we established a few more. The key thing here is not that. In order to establish a company, there's one thing that's required. In a traditional sense, you need capital, right? In order to buy a property, we didn't have $1 million in cash. So we actually had to borrow money in order to acquire property. Now, as we built our companies over the last 10 years, one thing we didn't realize, we actually were guaranteeing a whole bunch of debt. And the second thing, the very thing we wanted to be secure from, the insecurity of a job, we were actually more and more vulnerable to it. Because we were guaranteeing so much debt, we could not afford to lose our jobs. So we had to work harder and harder at our jobs and then put in extra time on our companies to make sure that they run successfully. So the very thing that we wanted to be secure from, we were more vulnerable to. Why? Because we didn't have the right guidance in our life. And that's where we were. But you know what, we were excited. No matter what, we were excited because we thought we are better off than the rest of our friends. You know, when you compare yourself to mediocrity and you're doing a little bit better, you feel that you're, very successful. And that was us. You measure yourself by the environment that you're in. And that was another lesson we learned later on in life. But that's where we were, struggling in mediocrity. When a couple of years ago, we met a couple who challenged the way we thought. So when we sat across the table from them and they shared with us what they did, how they created significant wealth in their life, one of the things we noticed was that wealth was debt-free. And they had no pressure to do something because they needed to pay a bill. They were free in the true sense of the word. And I saw for the first time what financial freedom truly looks like. And when Anoop and I went home that day, we did a lot of self-reflection and realized that if we knew what this couple knew, we would have been there. But we didn't. So there was only one thing left to do. It was to ask them. And that's what we chose to do. See, many a time, people come into our lives, they inspire us, and then they go away. It's like opportunity that knocks on your door. It comes by everybody's door. But some of us open the door and ask them to come in. Other people just bid adieu. Now we could, in that moment, have chosen not to pursue that relationship because of another 3-letter word called ego. Because we had built our companies ourselves, we were fairly successful when compared to the rest of our friends. We didn't need to learn from anyone else. But we knew what we had seen, the kind of results that we had seen was very, very far away from where we were, and something that we truly aspired for. And we had to be honest to ourselves. And that is why we chose to actually reach out to them and ask them if they would be willing to teach us how they had created the results they created. Now, it was their choice whether they chose to say yes or no, and we had no say in that. However, we did what was in our capacity, that is to pursue them. We took action. And we're very grateful because they were very generous with their time. They told us that if we were successful through an interview process they would put us through, and where they would evaluate not our skill set, not our business acumen, but our character and our ability to build a relationship with them. If they were happy with that, then they would be willing to invest some time to teach us what they knew. And it took us about 8 weeks of pursuit, of proving ourselves, to eventually earn their time and earn their respect. But at the end of the day, we are very fortunate that we did make it, and we did earn them as mentors in our life. And today, everything that we have in the last few years has been attributed to their influence in our life. You know, after we earned them, they questioned us on how we made choices in our life. They questioned us what our values were. And of course we said our values were family and love and joy. And they told us what actions are actually aligned with those values. And no one had asked that before. You know, we were leaving the very people that we said we were, was our value system, our children, to actually go and earn an income. And no one had questioned that. We were leaving the very children for whom we were building everything in order to build our businesses. And it wasn't something that was just limited for a season. We had no idea when that was going to stop. We had no plan to buy our time back. And that was something that really shook our belief and the ground that we were standing on. But thanks to their influence, they showed us how to build assets that would help us get out of the hole that we had dug ourselves into. And we're very happy to say that in the next couple of years, because of their influence, we are going to create the results that we aimed to create 15 years from now. And that's how we bought back the time that would have gone if we had not made that one decision to pursue a relationship by setting our ego aside. So that's, apart from the financial benefits, of course, I think the biggest blessing in our life has been the vision that they've given us. Now, before Anoop and I met them, we thought that giving back to society meant contributing to a charity. So we had a family foundation which we used to raise money for every year, and we would contribute to a cause, and we thought we were good citizens. And once we met them, we realized that that's good, but that's actually giving people fish. Whereas the real way to make a difference in someone's life is to teach them how to fish so that they can be not hungry for the rest of their life. And it was through their example that we saw that what they did to us was they taught us how to fish. They taught us to be smart about how we live our life so that for the rest of our life, we could give back to our family, to whatever we care about, and we could pursue joy and meaning. Because remember those 3 things that you wrote down, which brought you joy? Notice that you would do that whether you get paid or not. Money's got nothing to do with your experience of joy. Do you agree?
Yes.
However, in order to experience joy, you might need some money to buy that choice. You might need some money to buy that time. And most of us, because we've been educated a certain way, spend all our time making the money in the hope of finding joy, rather than making sure that we have a vehicle that generates the money so that we can pursue joy every day of our life. And we saw that example in our mentors. And today, that's one of our biggest causes. Because of the influence that they've had in our life, because of the change that's brought about in our life, one of our missions is to be able to empower and teach people to create a vehicle that can take care of their financial needs so that they can pursue what makes them happy, what makes life meaningful for them. And that's one of our biggest battle cries. So I'm going to ask you a question. The question is, if you had a choice to, whatever you've written down as the things that actually give you joy, if you had the choice to actually do that every day of your life and experience that kind of joy every day of your life, what would you be willing to give up in order to have that? Anything. If that's your answer, my friend, Anoop has something very important to share.
Great. So, coming up to what your joy and what your dream is, that's perfect. But there's a concept that a very famous motivational speaker, a coach who's come up with this concept. His name is Simon Sinek. Have you heard of his name? Yeah. Some of you? Great. So if you're here in this room, I'm sure you're pursuing all of those. So, for me, perfect. So, it all starts with this golden circle. It says why. The main and the core part is why. How and what. Most of the times, we all believe that knowledge is the key. How many of us believe knowledge is key? We have been taught that you have to get knowledge to become successful, right? Google, internet, fingertips, you've got everything available. Agree? Everybody has the same possibility. But yet, the rich become richer and the poor become poorer. Why is that? Because success is not the function of knowledge. Success is a function of wisdom. Right? What is wisdom? Wisdom is the application of knowledge. Let me give you an example. Do you know that tomato is a fruit? Do you know that? I forgot. Last 1 year ago, somebody made me realize it was a fruit. It's actually a fruit, and that is knowledge. Knowing that tomato is a fruit is knowledge. But knowing not to put tomato in fruit salad is wisdom. That's the application. Get that? So, very important is that concept of how success is a function of wisdom, not knowledge. Now, most importantly, everything starts from inside. But here's what we are taught for the last 14, 15 years of your schooling to graduation, undergraduation, post-graduation. We're taught what is more important than why. You see, we're taught first what? When you go for an interview, the first job that you've gone for an interview, what do you actually ask the interviewer? What do I have to do? Or when you got a job to the boss, what do I have to do? Agree? You never ask, why do I have to do this? You're probably going to be fired on the same night. Right? The point is, we are taught to think outside in, which is, what do I have to do? Managers are taught to think, how do I have to do? And the CEOs are taught to think, why am I doing this? Okay? Entrepreneurship is true. Entrepreneurship starts from here. We all first start thinking, why are we doing what we're doing? You should ask yourself a question, why are you here in this room? I hope it's not somebody dragged you here. I hope that's not the case. I'm sure that won't be the case. But ask yourself, why are you here? And that's what starts driving. Now, a person who knows how will always have a job. The person who knows why will always be that person's boss. Stop thinking why, rather than what and how as such. So, on that note, it's a concept which came across. However, this is not the full picture. The why, knowing the why is not the full picture. The full picture is the who. The combination of the why and the who. So, come to think of it, have you seen back in your life and seen that most of the major jumps in your life has happened when you've found the right person in your life? It's probably helped you. Happens, think of it. Hollywood stars, think of the great sports person. They all had somebody seen potential and allowed them to showcase it. Agree with that? Same case. Knowing the right who is very, very, very important. For us, we were successful in a lot of things that we did, but not had a quantum leap until we got to know the right people in our lives, like Aarthi was mentioning. Okay? Are you somebody who takes advice from people who are just close to you? Physically, geographically, roommates, housemates, brothers, sisters, cousins? Or do you take advice from people who are emotionally close to you? Right? Most of us do that. Now let me ask you a question and think about this before you answer. Think about the person who really you take advice from. Okay, imagine the person, that name. And I'll ask you the question, would you like to live his or her life? The current life that they're living. You can nod yes or no. Don't do the Indian style. Right? So would you like to exchange the spots? No, I'm seeing nods going right, that means no, which is just fair, understandable. Here's the thing, you're already getting the life of that person, already. Why? Because you're listening to them. When you're listening to them, you're exchanging the results that person has. Okay? And that's a very important concept. So we got aware of this concept called take advice from the people who have the fruits on the tree in that area. You got a stomach ache? Would you go to an accountant? No. Look, if you want to live a successful married life, would you go to a couple who are divorced 5-6 times and say, hey, how do I live a successful married life? Again, common sense. Common sense is very uncommon in common people. You know that, right? The person who needs to put the deodorant will never put it on. That's like that common sense. So, point I'm trying to say of all that is know who you're taking advice from and be very, very choosy of it. If you take advice from wrong people, it might cost you your life. And coming to that, I guess some of the business concepts we got privy to. I'm going to jump into a few concepts here and there. This is by a famous author, entrepreneur, Robert Kiyosaki. You must have heard his name, right? He has come up with this concept called cash flow quadrants. And he talks about this. Everybody in this world can participate in 4 quadrants. They can be either an employee. Employee is a person who has a job. You have a job, 9 to 5, 5 to 9, job, right? There's a second set of oops. Like that. All right. Self-employed. That's the next quadrant, which is people who have their own business or they have a small business. It's the next quadrant. They own a job. Okay? B quadrant. People who have a system that generates money for them. And lastly, I, investors. This is where money makes money. A lot of people don't understand this. A lot of people don't understand this. They think money makes money. Actually, we don't. We think, how many people have houses here? Be honest. I do. Some of you here. Great. So, how many people think house is an asset? I did. Made a business out of that mistake. I'll tell you why. So, house you're living in, is that an asset? Some of you say yes, some of you say no. House you're living in is not an asset because there is no money coming in. Now, some of you might argue saying in Australia 7 years, house doubles, so it's you get money. But that is capital gains. Once you sell it, what do? Where do you get money from? So don't confuse capital gains with cash flow. Okay. Second, house that you're living in, or you're renting it out, is that an asset? Partially, it's not the right full sentence. House that you're renting it out, but if it's mortgaged, that's not an asset. Because you're collecting the rent and giving it to the bank. You're basically the rent collector. For you, it's a liability. For the bank, it's an asset. The bank is making money. Agree? House is an asset when you rented it out and completely paid off the mortgage. That's when it truly becomes an asset. In Australia, people who have bought houses or looking to buy houses, how many years does it take to pay off the full house? If you're not married a rich woman, 15, 20 years, 30 years is a loan, right? That's what happens. It takes 30 years to build an asset. Life's gone, okay? So point is very important to understand. Money here is not, house is not an asset or investors. I thought that was the case. Bitcoins, how many of us think that it is an investment? Yeah. You see, a lot of people do that. But that's not I quadrant. I quadrant is where you have 6 figures or 7 figures in cash available to you to put it into something that generates more money out of. That's investors. Okay? All right. So going back, I think I'll probably draw it here. It's easier than distracting. Okay. So some of the concepts that many people need to understand is this. Everybody does fall under one of the quadrants. Yes, of course. People who are on Central Link maybe probably sitting here. Let's keep that aside. So, E, employees have a job. S, quadrant, business people, small business owners or self-employed, which is carpenters, solicitors, plumbers, small cafe owners, all fall under that. Okay? They own a job. Either they get frustrated with their boss or they have an ugly boss that they start with their own business. That's what happens here. Okay? The problem with these two quadrants or similarity is what? Job. It's common element. What does that mean? That means you have to show up to make money. If you don't show up, if I don't show up in my restaurants, I don't make money. If I don't show up in my other small businesses, I don't make money. With me? That's a different kind of, I guess, thought process here. Here, there's a system that makes money for you. Up here, money makes money. This is where true lifestyle exists. Do you know the formula of lifestyle? Lifestyle is equivalent to time plus money. A lot of us have a lot of time. We are all 18 years of age here, I'm sure. Right? But not much money. Would you agree with me? We probably have life, no style. But when you have, somebody has chased money and become multi-millionaires, guess what? They're one step into the grave. They don't have time to enjoy that money. They still have only one life, right? Point is, when you're young and you're rich, that's when you have lifestyle. Not many people have that option to create it. Okay? So, coming to the statistics, what I've known, and this is a known fact, 90% of the people in the world are on the left side. Only 10% of the people in the world are on the right side. This 90% generates 10% of the world's wealth. In 2018, I don't know how much you have followed the news, the top 1% of the people generated 83% of the world's wealth. Top 1% of the people generated 83% of the world's wealth. Do you understand what that means? We, in schools and everywhere, we are taught to become employees or self-employed. Would you agree with me? Some of you might disagree and say, hey, but there's MBA schools. My dad was under that impression. Until 60, he's done 4 masters and PhD at the age of 60. So you can understand how much education was drilled into me, right? So how much baggage I was carrying when my future mentors met me, and I had to shake up and drop that baggage. That's why Aarthi keeps talking about the 3-letter word ego, right? Let the E, drop the E and just go. That's the ego standard, right? Point is this, that, where was I? MBA, yes, MBA. The reason for MBA, a lot of people say MBA. What does MBA stand for? Master of Business Administration, not ownership. You administer someone else's business. That's what you're trained for, right? And that's the problem with it, and there's nothing wrong. It's a way of living. Now I'll tell you the different kind of mindsets that everybody carries in this area. There's a value system. Aarthi and myself follow a lot. We read books. There's a value system. I never understood this. You know, companies, in your companies that you work for, they all say, hey, company has got a value. There are 4 or 5 sentences, and nobody would have known what your company's values are. I'll guarantee you, unless you're at the, the Y, close to the Y, senior positions or CEO positions, you probably don't know the values of your company. That's because people are not trained for that. We're not trained to be entrepreneurs, right? Point is, we live by a value system, and I'll tell you the value system in each of these quadrants. In this quadrant, the value system is job security. How many of us have been told, hey, having a good job means job security? You'll always be secure. How many of you work here, by the way? Okay, well, pretty much everybody, so it's good. I was just thinking, I'm talking